This tariff model is simply to shut their borders with respect America. If we are your biggest trading partner, show us the respect, shut your border, and end fentanyl coming into this country. And if they execute it, there will be no tariff. And if they don't, then there will be.
Now, yesterday we had quite a bit of information come out in regards to the tariffs expected to arrive on February 1st from Trump's Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick. And as you heard from the opener, if we decide to shut down our borders, then we most likely will not be hit by these. And Premier Danielle Smith also came out yesterday with a press conference saying the same thing.
The message from Washington is that the tariffs threatened for Saturday are about the border. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith agrees.
Now we see a pathway. It's been confirmed that the person who is going to be making the decisions on tariffs said in his hearings today that we can avoid them if we demonstrate serious effort.
Canada's already announced boosted border security in response to Trump's threats, adding helicopters and drones.
Canada's border is strong, and we're making it stronger.
Ottawa is also pushing its anti-tariff pitch with videos produced for Trump and his team to show arrests and border security improvements. And video of newly acquired Black Hawk helicopters in action have also been sent to Trump advisors via text message, all according to multiple government sources.
Now, a bunch of the premiers and Justin Trudeau met yesterday via Zoom, and Danielle Smith also gave this proposal, but she also emphasized that they themselves, Alberta, is increasing their border security. You saw Black Hawk helicopters flying by the borders there. They're also inviting Fox News to come down and view that they're increasing their border security.
A Black Hawk helicopter now patrolling Alberta's southern border. It's proof police and politicians say that Canada is taking Donald Trump and his tariff threats seriously.
We want to ensure that the American people, along with their president and elected representatives, know that action is being taken on this issue.
The next step, according to Alberta's premier, is to appoint a Canadian border czar. Danielle Smith wants retired Army commander and current Alberta government official Paul Winnick to get that job. Trump has already appointed a czar on the southern side.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says part of her anti-tariff push included inviting Fox News to the Alberta border to see what they're doing. That's set to air 2 days before Donald Trump's February 1st tariff deadline.
But when we go back to the hearing from Howard Lutnick, he emphasizes that a lot of fentanyl is coming over the border to U.S., killing their citizens. However, our government is stating that less than 1% of the fentanyl is crossing over from us. But Howard also says that we have labs here that are growing it from the Mexicans.
The short-term issue is illegal migration and, worse even still, fentanyl coming into this country and killing over 100,000 Americans. There's no war we could have that would kill 100,000 Americans. The president is focused on ending fentanyl coming into the country.
We know that less than 1% of all fentanyl entering the United States comes from Canada.
You know that the labs in Canada are run by Mexican cartels.
Now, after we heard that from Mr. Lutnick, CBC decided to bring on a criminologist to basically fact-check him and disprove his claims that a lot of drugs are coming from Canada to the U.S., when actually it's vice versa. Canada actually gets a lot more drugs from the U.S. We just saw that big cocaine bust not too long ago. I think it was maybe a week ago, if not two. But he does admit that we do have a synthetic drug problem, and that Canada does have a lab in BC that has ties to the Mexican cartels. So it's not like Lutnick is telling complete falsities, but just take a listen to this.
Let's focus in on some of those comments from Howard Lutnick with Stephen Schneider. He is a professor of criminology at St. Mary's University and author of ICE, the story of organized crime in Canada. He joins us from Halifax this evening. Stephen, you analyze drug policy. What do you make of the comments from Lutnick today and some of those numbers that he's given out?
Well, it's hard to argue with the kind of rank hypocrisy that comes out of the Trump administration. First of all, the Mexican cartels don't control synthetic drug production in Canada. Yes, we do have a problem with synthetic drug production. It's a lot of independents. There's a lot of biker gangs involved, and it's only recently that we've discovered, or police have discovered, some evidence that Mexican cartels may be involved. One lab in British Columbia was using a recipe that's associated with Mexican cartels. And Lutnick and Trump, of course, refuse to acknowledge that a vastly more amount of drugs come into Canada from the U.S. than vice versa. So much of the cocaine that comes into Canada either comes through marine ports, which will come from Colombia via some transit countries, or it'll come from Mexico. And that cocaine coming from Mexico comes through the United States. In fact, just less than 10 days ago, police in Ontario seized 835 kilograms of cocaine that was from Mexico, came to the United States. And they made a point of saying that this cocaine came to the United States. And now that the Mexican cartels are also involved in methamphetamine production and fentanyl production, that is also being commingled with cocaine coming through the American border into Canada. So we get far more drugs, illegal drugs, through the U.S. to Canada, including synthetic drugs, than is being sent to south of the border from Canada.
Now, it's my opinion that it doesn't really matter if the drugs are coming from the U.S. to Canada or from Canada to the U.S. If it is the fact that it's coming more so from the U.S. to Canada, increasing our border security would only make sense. And if it is coming from Canada to the U.S., doing the same would also make sense. So regardless of where it's coming from, increasing the border security just makes sense. And just over the past few weeks, we've had increased stories about border crossings, most likely because of the deportation that Trump is implementing. But just look how porous these borders are.
They drive up, get out, lay some planks, hit the gas, and drive off, all in 1 minute and 12 seconds, and caught on camera by Washington State resident Tyler Brown.
Drive across the yard here, and I'm like, oh. I'll pull out my phone and start watching. They threw down boards and ramps and then took off because I guess Border Patrol came up right behind them.
It happened Monday, 3:30 in the afternoon near the Pacific Highway border crossing. This ditch along Zero Avenue is what separates the U.S. from Canada. Take a look. You could still see some of the tire marks on the grass there. Now, as soon as the individuals crossed into Canada, 5 men were arrested by RCMP officials, and they've since been handed over to the Canadian Border Services Agency.
And they were arrested at 172nd and 8th Avenue. One of them is wanted or was wanted by the United States authorities for property-related offenses.
The CBSA and RCMP declined to comment where the 5 are from. Migrants crossing the area has long been a problem. You'll recall stories involving the now closed Smuggler's Inn, where the owner helped people illegally cross Zero Avenue.
We generally have board jumpers almost on a daily basis, so yeah, it's just something that we're used to.
You kind of understand it in a way. People are scared. But there's a right way and a wrong way.
The nation is facing pressure from the Trump administration to tighten border security. Canada has responded with a $1.3 billion border plan. The CBSA recently stopped issuing permits to American hikers who use the Pacific Crest Trail as a BC port of entry. On the flip side, boulders and barriers were installed by U.S. officials along several high-traffic areas near the Blaine Crossing to prevent illegal entries. While residents appear to have some empathy for people who cross, they say the law is the law.
I understand why people come across, but there's just got to be a better way.
There's no barbed wire and it's not that tall, but this newly installed fence running along a short stretch of the U.S.-Canada border has caused a big stir in this small community.
I could climb over it even at my age.
Point Roberts resident Brian Calder first noticed it last week. 60 meters of chain link fence installed on January 16th, severing an international hangout spot that became a critical hub during the pandemic. But this border wall has nothing to do with Trump or even Canadian border security. It was built as a safety precaution. In November 2023, an elderly man wandered across the border into Point Roberts. He went missing and was eventually found dead. Delta Police recommended a fence be built, and city engineers followed through.
I think the timing also is a little bit unfortunate. There's a lot of, I guess, politics around walls and borders and crossing.
This Delta City councilor thinks the wall does a lot more harm than good.
Now, obviously, we have the longest unprotected border between the US and Canada, but just take a look at that. You have a little chain link fence that they've implemented in one part of the country, and then in the other, we have ditches, as well as now we're putting rocks in the way. Like, these are not proper measures to defend our border. And unfortunately, we can't fully rely on the federal government because they are essentially useless. Melanie Joly keeps going over there, comes back with no information on what potentially can be happening. Take a look.
The Canadian message was reinforced by the foreign minister, who met with the new U.S. Secretary of State, but left without any clarity on whether tariffs are actually coming.
I must say, Katie, that this is just the reality of dealing with the Trump administration, and we need to make sure that we're ready.
So, I mean, at this point, something's got to give. And as much flack as Danielle Smith keeps getting, I think she's at least being more proactive than anyone else with trying to prove that we don't want this relationship to sour. We want to show you that we're doing as much as we can and that we really don't need these tariffs to hit Canada at all. But as always, love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.